Number 4, the most beautiful spot in all Capri. Michelle! Michelle looked up. In the doorway stood an easel. Around and in front of the easel were rolls of canvas, bundles of brushes, and a palette, old paint rags, 2 legs attached to a pair of boots, small paint pots, a wooden box, half a head of hair, 1 eye, part of a nose, and a thin cheek. Michelle! The voice, at least, was not concealed. It came out from behind the easel, full and clear. Michelle! Yes, Lord Derby. The easel and everything attached to it moved a few steps closer. Michelle, may I borrow you for the day? Borrow me? The easel could laugh as well as talk. Yes, Monsieur Jacques. Borrowed you yesterday. I should like to borrow you today. Certainly, Lord Derby. What would you like me to do? I want to paint up in the mountains. Do you know a place that is especially beautiful? The most beautiful spot in all Capri? Good. It is not easy to get there. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter? Michel looked toward the doorway. Already he could feel the easel beating against his legs, the paint pots knocking against his side, the weight of the wooden box upon his head. The easel started to turn around, then swaying dangerously. Michel sprang forward. May I help you, Lord Derby? Shall I carry your things? The half head of hair, the eye, the part of the nose, the thin cheek moved from side to side. No, thank you, Michel. I always carry my things myself. Foolish of me, I know. You'll have to excuse a fussy old artist. Excuse? Michel ran off to the kitchen to hide his face. The beating legs of the easel, the knocking paint pots, the heavy box had been lifted from him. He felt as free as the wind, but not for long. Yes, Signora Pango nodded his head. Certainly you may go, Michel. We must do everything we can to keep these guests happy. You will be gone all day? That will mean lunch. She began hastily to put things into a basket. Michel groaned. His mother lived with the constant fear that everyone around here was going to starve to death, and her whole life was spent trying to avoid that great tragedy. Mama, Michel could not keep from protesting. Mama, we will be gone only a day. To have a little extra food along is always a good idea. You can never tell what might happen. What could possibly happen? You can never tell. Do you think we are going to get lost? You lost on Capri? Signora Pango smiled. Bitten perhaps by a snake? There are no snakes on Capri. Break an ankle? The good saints help us. Fall down a cavern? Signora Pango could stand no more. All right. Here. She shoved the basket with a clean cloth and handed it to Michel. Go carefully. And go now carefully. Careful. She should have seen the basket half an hour later. First it swagged dangerously on top of Michel's head. Next it hung by a thin cord from his shoulder. It was thrown half-tipped across small streams. Halfway up a hill, Michel looked back at Lord Derby, who was walking behind him. He looked like a paint shop on 2 legs. Are you all right, Signor? I suppose so. Lord Derby stopped to catch his breath. How much farther, Michel? 1 more hill after the steps. The steps? Michel pointed straight ahead. Look. By Jove, Lord Derby stared. I've seen steps in my life, Michel, but never any to compare with those. One cannot see the top. While you climb them, you are sure there is no top. Lord Derby looked at Michel questioningly. You do not sound too fond of them. I hate them. Hate them? Yes. Why? I think they're ugly. They break your back with their steepness, blister your feet with their hardness, hurt your eyes with their glaring. They are like a great scar on the side of the mountain. Where do they go? To Anacapri. Are you going to Anacapri? No. Not if you want to see what I think is the most beautiful spot on the island. All right, Michel. Someday I shall ask you to take me to Anacapri, but not today. Let's see the favorite spot of yours. Michel found an opening between the 2 tall bushes. This way, Signor. Here's our path. Our path? Lord Derby laughed. It might be your path, Michel, but it isn't mine. I can't see the path any place. What? Michel looked down at his feet. You can't see it. It is plain as day to me. Beneath the leaves and the underbrush. Paths are beneath leaves and underbrush are not as plain as day. Michelle laughed. Never mind, just follow me. It is not far, only a few steps. We are almost to the top. One moment they were surrounded by trees and bushes. The next moment the whole world seemed made of nothing but sea and sky and high stone cliffs. Ah, Lord Derby looked around him. I understand now, Michelle. Understand? Yes, this place is not real. This is why one must follow an invisible path to reach it. Nothing as beautiful as this could be real. Some good Genii. How long do I have before the Genii takes this away? How long before it vanishes? Michelle rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Well, let me think. His eyes twinkled. It will not vanish, I promise you, Lord Derby, until the sun disappears behind the farthest cliff. Good, good. Then I have all day. In a few minutes, the easel was set up and the canvas stretched across it. The paint pots were opened. Michelle. Yes, Lord Derby. What are you going to do? You mean now? Yes. Why, nothing, Lord Derby. Just wait here until you are ready to go home. Then will you talk to me? I will talk while I paint. Michelle sat down beneath the tree and crossed his legs. He squirmed around for a few minutes, then he smiled uncertainly. All morning he had talked to Lord Derby. Now suddenly he was asked to talk. He could only think of nothing to say. Lord Derby put a bit of paint in a brush and dabbed the canvas. Tell me about yourself, Michelle. What do you do? Who are your friends? Do you get lonely up here at the inn? Lonely? Never lonely. There is so much to do. Pietro and I. Who is Pietro? Pietro is the donkey boy. He is my best friend. Then quickly Michelle added, Angelo is my best friend too. Lord Derby looked up. You are fortunate, Michelle. Most people are lucky to have one best friend. To have two? Michelle nodded. He was very well aware of his good fortune. To have Pietro and Angelo both were more than anyone deserved. Lord Derby looked out across the water. He looked so long and so hard, Michelle thought he had forgotten about everything, including his painting. Suddenly he began to paint again, furiously, with short, quick strokes. Angelo, Lord Derby repeated the name slowly. Isn't that the fellow we met on the beach? Tell me about him, Michelle. Michelle laughed. How could one tell about Angelo? Well, he began, he is a fisherman. A fisherman? Yes. He's about 40 years old. 40 years. All right, go on, tell me more. He lives by himself in a little cottage close to the sea. All of this tells me nothing about your friend Angelo. I know. All at once the words were there. Michelle could not say them fast enough. Angelo is wonderful. Next to my father, he is the most wonderful man in all the world. He is always laughing and singing. When you are with him, you feel good inside. Everything is important to Angelo. Everything. The color of a fish, the way he ties a knot, the way he mends a net, the way he wears his hat on his head. Everything is important. And nothing is important. Nothing. He laughs at everything. And his stories, he tells wonderful stories. My mother doesn't like him. Lord Derby didn't take his eyes off his painting. Why doesn't your mother like him? She says he doesn't tell the truth, that he doesn't know how, that he twists and turns everything. What do you think, Signor? Do you think it is wrong of Angelo? Michelle hesitated and then went on. Do you think it is wrong of Angelo not to tell the truth? Lord Derby sat with one brush between his teeth, sticks clenched in his left hand and one in his right. Finally, he took the brush out of his mouth and put it behind his ear. I don't know, Michelle. I'm afraid I can't answer that question. But let me tell you this. I think that almost everyone is looking for something special, something that means more to him than anything else in the world. Do you remember the first night we came to the inn? Monsieur Jacques said that I had come to Capri in search of beauty, and that he had come in search of adventure. Michelle nodded. But it is not just in Capri, Michelle, that we do our searching. I look for a bit of beauty no matter where I go, and Monsieur Jacques is forever searching for adventure. And we find it, Michel. I think some way or another most people find the things they look for. Perhaps your friend Angelo is searching for gaiety, Michel. He must find something to laugh about, something to make others laugh. When he doesn't find it, he makes it up. That's the way of finding what's important to him. That doesn't seem too wrong to me. Michel nodded. He wasn't quite sure he understood what Lord Derby was saying, but it was right to say that Angelo searched for gaiety and that he found it. He wondered what he would search for when he was grown. Lord Derby? Yes, Michel. Does everyone search for something? Almost everyone, I think. Even Herr Nordstrom. Lord Derby laughed. I'm not sure about him, Michel. I think perhaps he is one person who hasn't found anything to look for. That is why he keeps himself buried in his books. Lord Derby threw a large cloth over the canvas. What do you say, Michel? Let's have lunch. Take a small nap. A nap? I never sleep in the daytime. When Michel awoke, Lord Derby was painting again. Well, he looked at Michel and smiled. For a boy that never sleeps in the daytime, you are a good actor. Michel grinned sheepishly. I was just watching the clouds, and then the next thing I knew, it was now. You awoke just in time. I have finished my picture. Do you want to see it? Michel started toward the picture, but Lord Derby stopped him. Wait a minute. If you like the picture, I'll give it to you. But you must tell the truth. Michel looked around him. How wonderful it would be to take this place home with him, the sea and the sky and the cliffs. He walked to the front of the easel, looked at the canvas, then looked again. There was no sea, no sky, no cliffs. The steps, he gasped. You painted a picture of the steps to Anacapri. Lord Derby nodded. Well, pleased with himself. Do you like my picture? Michel nodded slowly. Yes, only what? The steps are so beautiful. Have I made them too beautiful? More beautiful than they really are? I never thought they were beautiful at all. I thought they were ugly. Perhaps you have never looked at them before. Looked at them? I have looked at them 1,000 times. Sometimes we never look at things we see most often. Michel continued to stare at the pictures. Those colors in the rocks, are they really there? I saw them there. And the steps, do they loop and turn like that? Exactly like that. You have made them look like a stairway to heaven. Have I? Good. It should be easy to climb a stairway to heaven, Michel? But as they walked towards home, Michel was still puzzled. Lord Derby? Yes, Michel? Why did you go to the most beautiful spot on Capri and then paint something else? Your spot was too beautiful, Michel. Too beautiful? Yes, I don't think there is enough paint in the world to paint a picture of that spot as it should be painted. At least I am not good enough to do it. But that doesn't worry me. You don't need an artist to show you the beauty of a place like that. But your ugly steps, if I have made you see a bit of beauty in them, Michel, I am very happy. They were almost home when they saw Herr Nordstrom walking down the path. Well, Lord Derby greeted him enthusiastically. It's good to see you out of doors. I was beginning to think you'd never leave your books long enough to see anything of this beautiful island. Herr Nordstrom looked a little embarrassed. I know you think I'm nothing but a bookworm, but there's so much to learn. Philosophy is a big subject. Philosophy, Michel repeated the word to himself. He had never heard it before. He listened, and while Lord Derby and Herr Nordstrom talked philosophy, the word was repeated again and again. When they got close to the end, Lord Derby sat down on a large boulder. I'm going to rest here a while, he said, and watch the sunset. You two go on. I'll see you at dinner. Philosophy. Michel said the word carefully to himself. He was afraid he would forget how to pronounce it. Herr Nordstrom? Yes, Michel. May I ask you a question? Certainly. What does philosophy mean? Herr Nordstrom stopped walking and stood very still in the middle of the path. It means... He laughed as if he were embarrassed. Let's see, how can I explain it to you? Philosophy is a search for the truth through knowledge. Yes, that's it. All philosophers search for the truth. Do you understand, Michelle? Michelle shook his head. No, Herr Nordstrom, I don't understand. But I am pleased about one thing. What's that, Michelle? Lord Derby said you hadn't found anything to look for, but you haven't you? You're searching for something just like everyone else. Herr Nordstrom smiled. That's right, Michelle, but I have chosen a difficult thing to search for. So difficult I cannot even explain it to you. That's all right, Herr Nordstrom. Don't worry about it. Perhaps someday, when I get older, perhaps, Michelle.